When you zoom in and out, what you're actually doing is changing the magnification power of the lens, and then your subject becomes larger or smaller in the frame. If you're on the ball, you may have realised that already. But what you may not have realised is that zooming in and out, or using a long telephoto lens or a wide angle lens, actually has other impacts on your photo, and these can be quite dramatic. Let me ask you a question. Suppose you would take a picture of a friend, and it was meant to be a full length photo. So you stand about 4 or 5 feet away from your friend, and because it's full length, you need to use the wide angle setting on the camera. So you take the photo, and then you move back about 30-40 feet and take another photo with the subject, with your friend, still in the same place. But to keep it the same size in the frame, you zoom right in to your friend. Now, and then you take the photo. So the question is, you've got one photo of a full length portrait with a wide angle lens, you've got another photo, subject same size, with a telephoto lens. Do these photos look the same? Not just talking about the subject, but the image as a whole. Does it look the same? So that's the question. What do you think? Well, let's give it a try. As I don't have any friends, I'm going to use this bush as our subject. So I've set the lens to its widest angle. I'm going to get the whole of the bush in, and I'm going to keep the bush on a third so we can see some of the background. So let's go back about 40, maybe 50 feet, taking another picture of the bush, and I'm going to zoom the lens in, take another photo, keeping the bush the same size as it was before. Now have a look at these two photos, and I think that will answer the question. The reason these two photos look completely different is because of the perspective. Not just because I zoomed in, but mainly because I was standing in a different place when taking the photos. So when you zoom in, it doesn't just bring your subject in closer, it makes objects in the background look closer together. And the opposite is true at the wide angle end. Your subject will appear further away, but objects in the background will appear further apart. Now at the moment the video camera is at the wide angle lens setting. If you look at the trees behind me, they go off way into the distance. So we'll move the camera back and show the same frame with me exactly the same size and see how the background looks. Now we've moved the camera back and zoomed in. I should be approximately the same size as I was in the previous frame when we were using a wide angle lens. But look at the difference in the background. First of all, you don't see so much of it, but that's the subject of another film. But the other thing is the trees are kind of flattened together, aren't they? And that's because the magnification of the lens has caused the perspective to flatten objects in the background. This works great when you have objects that repeat like these trees do, and you get a kind of a bang 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 staggered effect, or a stacked effect I should say. There's a great film on repeating patterns elsewhere on the website, and there's a link to it lower down on the page. Now this technique is used all the time by newspapers and magazines and so on, and it's a great effect. Here's a picture I took in this very park a few months ago using repeating patterns and using a long focal length. The other thing that can happen when you're zoomed into your subject, and you see this in films, is when the subject moves towards you, they look like they're hardly moving. When you're shooting your subject quite close with a wide angle lens, the subject tends to be drawn towards the camera. It's a similar effect to when you're looking at yourself in a kettle, but not quite as extreme. You know, your face will be distorted, your subject's nose will be larger than it should be. So you have to be careful when taking portraits. Avoid using a wide angle lens close up. Here's some shots of me, first with a very close wide angle, then moving back a little bit, still with a wide angle lens, and then zooming right back and using a long telephoto lens. You can really see the difference in the distortion of the face. Anyway, that's about it on how focal length and distance can affect the perspective. Bye for now.